Hello everybody, this is James Diboe on Discovering Season 4, dedicated to original people, and we got a special guest in today. You know, he's an author, ghostwriter, illustrator. He's done plays, he's been involved in many things, so I'm going to first of all introduce Vincent Cleghorne. How are you doing, Vincent?
Hi, James.
Great to have you on. Great to have you on. And, you know, today we're going to be speaking at your many talents that you've got, you know, speaking on, like, your first book that you wrote. This is the book, Mitch and Moose Adventures. Mitch and Moose, yeah. This is the book anyway. And it's a fact of, well, you're not just a writer, you know, you're the illustrator as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm looking at some of these different pictures. You know, man, when you're younger and you're looking at some of these books, I seem like a Burglar Bill looking type person before. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, where did it begin? If you can tell us a bit about your timeline and on how to begin as a writer. In the beginning?
I suppose my first writing, in picture books or in writing in general?
Just a writer in general?
My first writing was, I wrote a 10-minute play, well, actually a 10-minute film for a competition that was being run by Mersey Television.
Okay.
And it won. Mersey Black Awards in 1996, and then they made it into a film, and then the film won awards all over the country and in other countries as well.
Excellent.
So that was kind of a boost to getting into screenwriting.
Right.
And then I started writing. I sent away a feature screenplay to a company called Rain Dance in London.
Rain Dance.
And they got back and said, I was only asking for a critique, paying for a critique, and they got back and said, we love this film, we want to make this film.
Big.
We want to option it. A guy called Elliot Grove. And I went down to London, and there was a star-packed audience when I walked in there for something else. And Elliot was on stage, and he said, Vince, I want to make your film. It never came about, but they did option it, so I got paid, and I got to go on all the courses and everything like that. It was just one of those things where it just didn't work out. And,
okay, what was when you say didn't work out, why didn't it work out?
Sometimes companies option a movie, and then I think they optioned it again through a different company, and it didn't happen again. They love the screenplay, but it's just how to make it. You know, your initial thought is, we want that, we'll option it.
Yeah.
And then over that year, they're thinking, but how are we going to do it?
Okay, so you mentioned about courses then?
Yeah, they put me on all their courses in London, which was a bit of a pain. I had to sleep in the back of cars and stuff like that just to stay over the weekends of the courses. But it was great. They had John Truby from LA and all different producers, filmmakers and stuff like that.
Well, last time I had, a couple of weeks ago, I had Patrick Graham on, he's a writer.
Yeah.
And I was speaking about creative writing courses, he was explaining about them. And I was saying, how much do they work?
Yeah.
I mean, I was explaining about somebody who is talented naturally, and then there's people who maybe don't have talent.
Yeah.
And Patrick mentioned about sometimes you've got the person there who can coach and point out your creative ways and extract things, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
you seem naturally talented anyway.
No. It's a finer point. You could have all the creativity in the world if you can't write format and stuff like that, you know, or know when to end a story. Because I used to listen to friends' stories and I'd go, oh, that's brilliant. And then they go and turn the page again. And I'd think, no, that just ended. Why is it carrying on? It's knowing everything about a story. Same with a screenplay. It's knowing when to finish the film, when to start it, where to start it. So I went to a place called Liverpool Playwrights.
Yeah.
And I was there for 2 years. I did 2 years. It was just a local place that you went to every Thursday. You met up in the Everyman Bistro. And then you go to do Liverpool Playwrights. And it was just a group of people, actors, writers. And some of them are up there now and doing really well. And they'd act out your play or your little piece, what you'd bring in. And you'd get all their advice. Everyone would advise everyone. Invaluable. Honest to God, amazing.
Yeah.
2 years, brilliant.
So
it taught me so much.
See, these things...
And I thought I knew it all. No.
Right, okay.
Novice. I was a novice.
Well, it's interesting to hear that, because sometimes people just think, well, you just come off the top of your head. You have a boss imagination. You've got your stories, beginning and endings, but then, like you say, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah,
Putting a book together.
fine-tuning.
Yeah.
It really is. And they were a great group of people. So I'd always advise, look around for a writers group. There's lots that are there in Liverpool. I think there's Liverpool playwrights at the moment. And just join.
Yeah.
You know? It's like it's only probably a quid each
Yeah.
time you turn up. It's nothing. But what you learn is amazing.
Great. So where we're up to now, so after these things, some things didn't work out for you, saying, with certain companies. So when's the time when you felt, well, this company's right for me, or when did you find yourself?
I was all over the place. I wrote a feature cartoon with characters, beautiful characters, and the cartoon was tight. It was really good. So I just jumped a plane to LA, as you do, thinking I'm going to see Disney, and which doesn't happen. And I was there for 8 days, but I've gone to DreamWorks and all different ones, and they stayed in touch. They wanted me to keep on adding to my portfolio. And then I went back a couple of years later and stayed there for like about 6 months. I got top agent, Shapiro Lichtmanstein, and I got to see all the top companies, the CEO, vice president of Fox, president of Saban, president of, what was it? I forget what I went to Sony, I went to everywhere.
Wow.
And besides lots and lots of parties you get invited to, and even if you turn them down, they send a car.
Do they? Wow. Sound like a great time.
Amazing, yeah.
Definitely. And that was in Los Angeles?
Yeah, but my son was really young at the time, and I wasn't off missing him.
Okay, yeah.
And once you leave, they, American companies and that, need you there, because you're the face that they send out. They don't come with you, the agents. They send you, because it's all about you.
Ah, right, okay.
If the company wants to work with you, if they like you, and everything else.
That's how it works, yeah.
So you need to be there. As soon as I left, well, the agent's gone.
And what, is this 96? Are we talking? Or?
No, this was, when was it? In 98?
In 98, okay. So 96 is when you first wrote this? Was this? Or what's the year?
No, much later.
Okay, this comes later.
About 10 years ago, I started writing the picture books.
Okay.
I was sitting in the back of a van on the way to work. I was working at the Everton Free School for excluded children. And we went over the water to on the Wirral. We had a place over there as well. And I was sitting in the back of the van, and two guys driving, the driver and the passenger, were talking about the football game. And my mind just drifted off, and I came up with this, not that book, but a different one, which I never finished. But that made me start looking at ideas to do with picture books. And stories were just filling my head then.
Yeah.
But again, you think you know how to write one. You think it's 500 words, easy. But you've only got to put exactly what is needed in the story. You can't have, like with a book, a novel. I walked into the room, there was a fancy chandelier, there was a velvet couch. You can't mention that.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't got the room. So you've got to pick specific words to tell your story.
That's right, yeah.
Lots of authors, novelists say that it's the hardest thing to write a picture book.
Yeah. Well, pictures definitely capture the imagination.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so how many books altogether do you have?
With published or about to be published, or just sitting there waiting to be published?
We'll start with being published.
Published, I think it's 9 of these picture books.
9. Yeah. Wow.
And next month, 2 more.
Another 2 more.
And there's tons sitting there, fully illustrated, beautiful stuff.
Yeah. So, from LA now in 1998, what happened, like, because I want you to run me through your timeline.
Yeah.
Like your story and that. So what happened then from there?
Well, the agent in LA, every time they sent me out to one of the companies, Polygram Filmed Entertainment, whoever it was, they would say that they're not going to take you on, but they will keep you on file because the stuff is amazing. But you need to bring something out. You need to bring a book out or something that tells them, there's you. And other people can go, oh, that's that guy. And then they'll take a chance. But they're not going to put 300 million into a feature-length cartoon with someone they've never heard of. a story no one's ever read. So they said that before they even sent me out to places. They said, no one's going to take it on, but they'll keep it on file. But you need to do something else. And when I got back, I did lots of other stuff. I got a normal, everyday job. And I still kept up with the screenwriting. But it wasn't successful. I was writing sitcoms and all kinds of stuff. Great stuff, still sitting there.
Yeah.
You never know. But I wasn't treating this seriously. It was more like something you did when you got home from work.
A hobby. You were treating it like that?
Yeah. The big dream kind of calmed down a bit.
I thought that was very interesting when you mentioned about in Los Angeles, where they wanted you to do a book first.
Yeah. I needed to be known.
That's interesting. And so did they help you in any way? Like,
no, that's down to you. And you know what? It should be down to you. You should be motivated to, okay, then I'm going to write a book.
True,
or I'm going to write a cartoon
yeah.
series, or I'm going to get a little animation made and try and get awards, or, you should do.
So it's like building your profile in other areas. They want to see that, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You just want your name to be out there so that when they go to make your stuff, people already know your name.
Okay, yeah. So it's more about profile rather than just you come with a boss idea, you're really creative. Sometimes that's just not good enough for them.
No, they love it and they're all over it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Treat you like a king, but they'll be honest straight away.
Okay.
They say, this is a feature-length cartoon. There's so many things in it. It would cost a bomb. So you need to be known.
Definitely.
We can't invest that kind of, and we can't ask other companies to invest that kind of money.
Right. Okay. So they feel like it's a risk.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay.
The people have made feature-length cartoons and they bombed because no one knows who they are. No one knows the story.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, take us from when you said that you came back to Liverpool. You doing regular jobs.
Yeah.
And doing things as a hobby, you were saying?
Yeah, I started teaching in Redbridge, which was like a special needs school. I loved it in there. I worked there for 4.5 years. Lovely place because the kids love you and they're happy to see you.
Yeah.
And that's great. As soon as you walk in the morning, so that's great.
Yeah.
And then I went on to work for the Everton Free School with the excluded kids, which great kids, but slightly different than Vinny in the morning.
Yeah. And that must be
more
good.
like gut roast.
Yeah. And then so you're working in this school at the time? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And as I say, two guys. I'm not really that much into football. And they were talking about the match.
Yeah.
My head was drifting off somewhere, and I wrote it on my phone.
Yeah.
A Crack in the Moon, it was called, and I just wrote it on my phone.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me into picture books and stuff. But I put stuff together and sent it like a novice, absolute novice.
So the Crack in the Moon, I came across that.
Yeah.
What was the name? What was the reason for the name?
None.
Oh,
you know what? I always watch these people.
I'm thinking deep or something.
No, a biographer on TV, and they go, "Oh yes, well, Charles Dickens was thinking at the time." I'm thinking, no, he wasn't.
Yeah.
It's how do you know? And that's the same with me. People will go about, oh, he must have been thinking of this or that. No, it just popped into my head. There was nothing I saw, and I went with it.
Yeah.
And that's why these books are Bug Soup, who's completely random.
Well, it's funny hearing that from yourself where, say, if I research something and what you just said, some people were saying, you were thinking this, you were thinking that when you come up with the idea. And
I don't know what I was thinking at the time. I was probably, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
I
mean, I wondered myself when I thought The Crack in the Moon. And I was wondering, like, is this something deep? Is it something off-world? Is it?
I know. I'm sitting there and two guys are talking about the football, and I come up with an idea for this bear who all the animals in the forest keep on coming up to him and asking him to fix this crack in the moon, help them. So he comes up with a way of building the scaffold all the way up, but with all the bits from each of the creatures. Like the spines from the porcupine, the ones which is meant to use the same as nails, and so on. The beaver, the wooden logs, so on and so forth. The fireflies, so he can see where he's going.
That's creative,
Nothing
though.
to do with football, nothing to do with sitting in a van.
But the creativity of just how you explain how they're getting to the moon,
Yeah.
that's just, I love it. Imagination. I mean, first of all, I think everything just starts off with an imagination anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and then taking things to the next level. But I mean, like to have a little read of that myself.
You know what? It's a lovely story. It really is.
Yeah.
But when I sent it, it was all bitty. I
Yeah.
just didn't know. Like with Liverpool Playwrights before I went there, I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to hone it. I didn't know how to make it the way it should be.
Yeah.
And I was just sending it off random.
What year was this, sorry?
Hoping that someone will go, oh, well, we'll do all the alterations and stuff.
What year was this?
This was about 10, 11 years ago.
10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you don't want to give everything away of the book, but I'm interested now, like, they got there and the scaffolding you're saying, and it's...
Well, when he gets up there, he just, like, bit of cement on the thing, bosh, bosh, bosh.
Yeah.
But the whole connection is with him, he wants to hibernate. And each one of these creatures, and he keeps on nearly falling asleep, and he's saying, I'll do it in spring or something. I'm going, no, because this, that, and getting off. Each one would go away, angry. So when he does do it, he falls asleep on top of the platform. He hibernates up there.
Yeah.
So it's a mad little story, but it's a gorgeous little story.
Yeah. Interesting, though. And
it's the first one that I painted the characters. I painted it all full size, big boards.
Yeah. So some of these other books that you've got, put them to the camera, let them... So Bug Soup.
Bug Soup has been amazing. Bug Soup's it's really weird because in the Mitch and Moose book, there's a picture which is at the very end of the book where the spider has got a bowl of bugs in a soup. And a friend from work noticed it and said, yeah, and I put the picture separate on I think it was one of the social media, and I called it Bug Soup. And then a friend from work got in touch and said, where can I buy Bug Soup? I want to buy that book. My son loves that picture. So I thought, ooh, I'd best write one. So I wrote Bug Soup, illustrated it, and it's sold ridiculous all over the world.
So just through this picture,
books, yeah. Because once he said it, I thought, well, before someone else does it, if I say I haven't written a book called Bug Soup, then someone might have seen that and thought, oh, I'll write one.
So you got to be clever. You can't give too much away.
Yeah, it's half done. I'm nearly finished it.
Yeah,
but I hadn't done any, except for that picture.
Yeah, but you got to save yourself in case someone thinks, I'll snatch that idea.
100%.
You must get a lot of that, like.
Well, if you hadn't actually got the book out there, you see a lot of these people who are doing picture books, and they're talking about them before they've written the book, and they're online talking about the book, and I'm thinking, you can't do that, because there's people out there which haven't got an idea, so they just think, you haven't done it yet, I'll do it. So
how would you, if you don't want to give too much away before you writ your book, how would you, like, in the beginning of advertising it to people? Is it best to write your book first?
Write your book. Don't tell them nothing before it's written.
Yeah, and then say, well, I'm advertising. Say you were going on the radio or you were promoting a book on here, tell me a future book. So it'd be something that you've already writ before you're going to speak on it. Do you think it's best?
Oh, definitely. I wouldn't go, oh, I've got an idea for...
Okay.
And, this morning I woke up with this, like, no.
Yeah.
That's all sealed until it's fully written and also sent off or at least emailed, because if it's emailed, that's a copyright.
Right, okay.
You can't falsify the email. Once it's sent, it's sent.
It's sent, yeah.
So you used to write a letter to yourself years ago and seal it up and all that kind of stuff and get,
Does that work, that?
Recorded. Well, that's all you had.
Okay, because people told me about that.
Walt Disney was clever. He sent it off to like 50 companies at once. So if one of those companies stole it, all the others have acknowledged receiving it. So if one stole it, they're calling all the others a liar.
Right.
And they have to stand up in court and say, no, you're the liar.
That's a good idea, to send it to different companies like that.
Get out there all at once.
Yeah.
That's it. Even though they say send it to one at a time. You'll be 90 before you get somewhere.
So with most of the books now, do you more concentrate on the children's books? majority, would you say?
Yeah, but I've got a horror book called Scur, Scur, which is just about to be sent off, novel. And and a children's novel as well called The Fool's Quartet.
Yeah. Well, also, in the future, you know, would you always look willing to stay on the children's books, or are you ever going to come out and do other books? An example, I'm looking to try and have something soon about indigenous peoples around the world and certain travels and that. Now, that could also be looked at as in different ways. It could be done as a children's book. It could be done as a book for anybody, you know. So, being adaptable, where would you, from your advice given to me, what advice would you give, like, from the story from where I'm coming from?
Well, most biographies and stuff like that, anyway, they're like notes.
Notes, yeah.
As many notes as possible and as neat as possible. So,
Yeah.
like, if it's to do with one subject, try and have all of them in that block.
Right.
And stuff. If you just go, here's all my paperwork, you know, writers
Be selective.
are horrified.
Be selective with...
Children's book of someone doing their adventures, which are based on real adventures, very good, because there's a picture book market which isn't fictional. And it's a big picture book market. People go for the fictional, but yours wouldn't be.
Now, I've got with having my own photographs.
Yeah.
To put them into animated form, because that would be a bit different rather than me going, take images. I've got my own images. So, would you, if it was a children's book, would it be better being animated or just better just the real pictures?
How do you mean, illustrated or?
Illustrator, yeah.
No, not the real pictures. You pick a style. You pick an illustrator's style that suits your book.
Right.
And then you just go for it. And, you know, people always think that's got to be so over the top detailed and stuff, but sometimes colours and less detail make for a much nicer book. And like I said, picture books which aren't fictional, the big sellers.
I mean,
99% of the people who, and there's millions of them now, all trying to get a picture book done. Everyone got on one in COVID and starts going, I can write a picture book.
Yeah, yeah.
Which most people can, but how good it is, that's a different kind of thing. Or how much time you want to put into learning about picture books and how to get them off to people and how to clean them up and edit them and all that kind of thing. So your non-fictional picture book is like a very small percentage, but they are needed out there.
Yeah.
They can sell a lot. Also, you can get animation made of them afterwards. It's an interesting thing based on real, going around the world to all indigenous tribes. And
rainforest, mountainous areas.
The most they've got is like Dora the Explorer, and that's fictional.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
so to have a real character
and also
and real places.
Yeah, and also some of these people didn't know existed in some of these countries as well. Like,
exactly.
You're dealing with Southeast Asia. People didn't know that these first people were black people, but not that they were first black. It's because they were all around the world. They're still there to this day.
Yeah.
And there's no advertisement looking at these Southeast Asian countries that'll tell you there's still black people there.
Yeah.
So it was only through researching different people like Ranoka Rashidi and Chancellor Williams, and a few scholars deal with the global African presence. So I just, as you know, like your book, being adventurous, you know, it's just an adventurous thing.
Yeah. And
then going there, sometimes I've been by myself. I took one time, it was an 8-hour drive to get 3 different buses. Didn't know exactly where we were going, but I made it. Couldn't get back, so I had to have my own adventure. You know, it's all about interacting with people, communication.
Yeah. With
different people. Doesn't matter, even sometimes you might not have, they might not even speak English. You know, communication as well. But the whole point of it is to open people's minds that, you know, these people exist.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, even people in their own country didn't know, most of them didn't know these people existed. So then when I actually went to visit them, and the first time I did it where I met like a tour there, because I'd never first done this. Then when we get up there, I started listening to the tour man, and he's giving a different story to the truth. He's saying that they're not from there. They came from like Papua New Guinea 200 years ago. So I had to challenge him, say, well, hang on a second. I've researched all this. All the scholars have researched it. Even scientists will tell you they're from there. They're the first people, 40,000 to whatever years they've been there. Yeah. So it's much more deeper than... I feel like we need to highlight these type of things anyway.
Yeah.
So definitely in the future, you know, there'll be a couple of options there and that.
Well, you know, a completely different thing, but still linked to the idea. Julia Donaldson, who does the Gruffalo and loads of Room on a Broom, and probably the most successful one of the past like 30 years, children's author, picture book author. Her agent or publisher or whatever put the book out there, the Gruffalo. It you know, wasn't doing great, and then she started promoting it herself, and it boomed. But she does most of her riches come through doing schools books to do with, you know, all different kinds of subjects and that. But if your book was put to schools, I mean, that's a massive worldwide market. And you see, what you're doing is you're educating, but in a fun way. It's picture books.
Yeah.
And it's non-fictional, but it's beautifully done. And each of the series tells a different place and the facts that go along with it whilst having an adventure as well.
Yeah.
All this, you know, this is the time.
So see with
all the schools around everywhere, all around the world, and they're all looking for that kind of thing.
So see with picture books, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not about all writing, you know, it's like, say, for example...
You're limited with the writing.
You're limited with the writing.
But not with a non-fictional book.
Oh, okay, with the non-fictional.
That's fictional, you're supposed to tell a short story.
Wow.
But with the non-fictional, you tell whatever you need to keep
telling,
okay. As long as it's got the pictures to go
as
with
long
it.
as the pictures are there. I mean, do you have to have a picture on every page, you think? Or like...
Yeah, stick with that.
Stick with
if you
that,
want to,
yeah.
you can do the Gruffalo kind of thing where you have a white page with just a series of 3 little blob pictures or one in the middle of it or something every now and again. Yeah. But you need colour. You need as much colour as possible.
Well, colour gives off frequencies and draws people in, doesn't it? Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. As colourful as possible. It's always the colours that people comment on these. Oh, beautiful, colourful book, blah, 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 blah.
Interesting.
And that. So, yeah, and the places you go to, I mean, wow. It's like booming with colour, isn't it? So,
yeah. So that's it, you know. And these tropical palm trees and, you know,
totally
rainforest.
Perfect
and
for an illustrator.
Yeah. Well, maybe that'll be something in the future anyway, you know. But, anyway, so tell us a little bit about some of the other books that you've done.
Who's There? This book here.
Let's put that up, yeah. Who's
There?
Who's There?
Spelled H-O-O-S. Who's. Just popped into my head as a book for...
I like that as well, when you spell it how you want to spell it.
Yeah, well, the
I like
owls,
that.
Owls, the characters are owls, so it's like, whoo.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, And it was just to do with, I don't even know why, I can't remember why, but it's basically, it's to do with things that go bump in the night aren't necessarily anything to be scared of. And each time it goes along, one of them's in bed, they can hear these noises, and, you know, it's all words like splash or bang, big massive words, crash, bash, smash. And then you realise it's just one of the friends with gigantic boots on or something, or with crazy gloves and symbols or something.
Yeah.
So each time you're thinking it's something, and it's not. And lots of people love that book because it's helped kids with being scared to go to bed and stuff, because the noises are here and they're usually just the parents downstairs or something.
Yeah.
And it's done in such a fun way. Now, there's a point to that. It's a fun way.
Okay.
I'll answer some questions. I'll bring it back to fun way of doing it.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are just going so serious with their picture books now. They're kind of losing the idea of stories.
Okay.
You know, they're all like getting on this kind of thing about, got to do a story about a kid who's having a really hard time. Everything's that.
It's too serious now.
There's no story. There's no dragon. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
It's all about people thinking they have to do that only, and it's just millions of them.
So would you say ideas are becoming more limited?
Yeah, because they're doing this. I mean, some people do it well, and they've got like doctorships, or you see doctors such and such. So they're experts. They know what they're talking about when they're talking about a kid going through trauma and stuff. These people are people who either have been in it, or they're writing about it because that's what they do as a living. They're helping children. But then you get all the others. Oh, such and such next door, their kid fell off the bike. I'll write a book about trauma.
So how can I put it? Is another way of putting it. You see, usually on this show, I try to deal with the positive side of a lot of African history.
Yeah,
we know we've got a lot of negativity, what we've been fed, and the conditions, how people are in now. But I like to come on the positive. Also, where they're connected to be positive is when I start to become spiritual. That's when I learned I've got to be more positive rather than just be an angry person.
Yeah.
And that takes you so far anyway, So that it's interesting, them kind of things anyway. But anyway, back to, what's the other book? Sorry, I wanted to ask you.
Say or Cockadoodle?
Cockadoodle, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, Cockadoodle Chicken Noodle.
Funny name.
Well, you know what? It's a weird one, because people will say to me, they'll say something like, ages ago, they say, well, who's there? There's no black people in Who's There. I'm saying, the owls. There's like a brown owl, if you really want to be picky, but they're owls. One's red, one's green, one's yellow, and one's brown.
Yeah.
So a lot of people kind of get on your case for certain things. Now, I'll put, I can put anything into my book. If I want to make it about a Chinese family living in Japan, I can write that.
Good, yeah.
And I can write it well because I'll research it well.
Yeah.
I won't just think, I'm going to do it. And like with anything, so like I might have a white kid with red hair in Where's Lucy Clementine, because she blends in with everything, the big massive red hair.
Yeah.
So that fits with that. In Bug Soup, the lady, the lead one, the character that all the kids love, she's black. And in Bug Soup 2, she's the one who's a cook and everything else. She's the one who loses the list. And in Bug Soup 2, she's got grandkids with her as well. Now, one's lighter and one's darker, because it's from two different families of grandkids.
Okay. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
But it's not a point. It's just natural. It's why I see it with my own grandkids.
Yeah.
It's just natural. So I put in, someone was saying, I did a book called, which the publishing, they love it, the publishers, called Naughty Tim Sprocket. It's about this kid who lifts everything, just stuffs it into his pocket. It's a rhyming one. Took me ages and ages to illustrate it. And people loved that one. But they were saying, well, it's a little white kid who's Tim Sprocket. And I thought, well, kind of like in this country, there's a lot more white people, so they can take it that there's a thief. But if I have a black kid as a kid robbing everyone,
stereotype, people will say,
it becomes a stereotype because it's more of a minority.
Yeah.
So it had to be a white kid. If it was in China, it had to be a Chinese kid.
Totally makes sense.
Because otherwise people are going to think, why does it have to be a black kid that's robbing everyone?
Yeah. Well, this is where...
So you've got to know things and be careful of things as well, because you don't want to upset people for just because you've been clumsy, and you haven't really thought it out.
Yeah.
No one's going to say, oh, look at the white kid robbing people. They're not going to even think that. They're just going to say, kid. But if it was a black kid, they'll say, look at the black kid robbing people. Like
typical what they expect because of what they've been fed.
And I'll be slammed on both sides.
Well, it's difficult sometimes. You're right there. But at the end of the day,
I like to. There's lots of the new books coming out, the proper story books, because a lot of these are just fun books. This is a proper story book, Cockadoodle. The all animals except for obviously the lead character, who's a farmer, and his wife. And I thought, well, he's black, and so is his wife.
Yeah.
And it's more based on, I've been watching programs which have got black farmers.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, while as 30 years ago, you didn't really think like that. You didn't really think in Britain there's going to be black farmers.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
of course.
but there is.
There is that.
So it's a natural thing. So
Interesting though, because it's like, yeah, you talking about China before. It's like, for example, if you're writing about Japan, you could even want to write about, like, well, we talk about the Black Samurai all the time.
Yeah,
that's actually a true story.
I'd
anyway.
love to see that film if they make one.
Well, I've talked about that last time with Chase. Was it Chadwick Boseman? He passed away? Was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, but hopefully it does come out. Hopefully it does come out.
I'd love to watch it.
Well, that'd be interesting.
I hope it's done well.
Yeah.
You know, really well.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, as a traveler anyway, like, I see different cultures anyway, you know, and you can learn off different people anyway. You know, there's no rule to you can't eat that food, or you know, you gotta get your knowledge, and you got variety out there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And when you come to writing, and you know, imagination is just, to me, I've always looked at a writer as the best writers have the great imagination.
Yeah.
Good knowledge also, but I think the imagination captures me more.
Yeah. Well, you can acquire knowledge if you want to put the time in, and you can perfect stuff. Every single one of my books, if I sent a letter, a query letter to a company, to an agent or a publisher, I would have a critique by 3 different people around the world who were experts.
Okay.
On the letter.
Just on the
because
letter.
Because a letter can destroy you. These companies, honestly, they read the first line and go, we don't even want to read the book.
What?
And with the book, same again, 3 different critiques around the world by experts.
Wow. So is that what you do before?
Then it comes back to me, and then it's down to me. Some of them get carried away because they love the story, so they suggest creative elements. Stick with your own creative elements. But format and everything else, structure, listen to them.
So there's many areas you can go when you're writing a book. You can be with a big company, and they well, would just, matter of fact, actually, there's a better way of putting it. I was speaking last time to Patrick about this. Just by, see, like when you said about a letter. Now, that's just a letter you just said, isn't it? Yeah. Or the word, and they might not like that.
Yeah.
And that's just something so small. So I can imagine, like, the bigger picture of something. Would you say, are you allowed to, like how can I put it? I was speaking last time with Patrick, who mentioned about he just likes to be able to just write. Unless you're writing for the Echo, or you're working for somebody, that's totally different. But when you just want to write because you want to write, like, that must be, I don't see a limitation on that. There's no limitation.
No, if you're writing a novel,
there's no limitation.
Go wild.
But then if you're working for a company, is it got to be structured a particular way, or do they let you, like, be creative as possible? Is it? Or?
With the company that I'm with, as I say, it's unusual publishers, because most publishers don't want you doing the artwork.
They don't? Oh, no, okay.
No. And that's why I always advise people when they get in touch with me about, I get loads of people getting in touch with me all over the world and stuff, and they ask about, and about my illustrations. I say, well, are you doing it for family and friends, or you're doing it to make money? And if they say family and friends, I say, okay, then, well, here's some illustrators, and look up more on this site and that and the other. If it's to make money and you're actually looking to send it to a publisher or an agent, don't do the artwork unless you're doing it yourself. Don't do the artwork. They don't want you to do the artwork. It presents an obstacle, because whereas they love your story, but you've got all this amazing artwork done which doesn't suit it, they're thinking they're going to want us to do that. They're going to insist on us using this artwork. Forget it. We won't go with them.
Okay.
It's an obstacle. So just don't. The money you're going to pay for an illustrator, pay for an editor, pay for a critique.
Interesting.
And send the manuscript. Don't send the artwork.
Don't send the artwork.
Yeah, all of them. Honest to God, 19. This one that I'm with is unusual. They call themselves a new way of doing publishing. They say all the other ones are old-fashioned, and it's great for me, because usually a publisher will take 2 to 5 years to publish a book from the moment they say, we love it, we're taking it on. These can publish my book in a month.
Okay.
So I start earning quickly.
Interesting.
But I have to supply amazing artwork. And even then, I've gone to them with like the Naughty Zoo, beautiful books. I mean, killer, funny stories. And they've turned it down.
Okay.
It has to be what they like.
Yeah, so...
there's no guarantee.
Yeah, so there's, like you're saying, because the business side of things, with anything, can put limitation, but at the same time, they want it done that way. And it will sell, it will do great, the book.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know
interesting.
that if they did take on something like the Naughty Zoo, you're thinking, that'll kill, that'll sell loads. But that's not the way it works. They choose stuff that is right for them.
Okay.
No matter how great you think this idea is, they'll go with the other. I mean, Bug Soup, I only did it under pressure of that it needed to be out there because someone else might do one. Bug Soup, because this guy has mentioned it.
Wow.
But it's sold ridiculously. And it's helped so many kids around the world with like autism, speaking, deaf, all kinds.
That's perfect, that it is.
And so I didn't see that coming.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
They
It's
saw
kind
it
of like,
straight away. As soon as I gave it to them, they just flipped.
that's good that you've just through someone just spotting in this book, Bug Soup.
That end picture.
The end picture, we've just looked at before.
James from in work.
Yeah, this one.
Good old James.
So this becoming a book, Bug Soup.
Yeah, that's the first picture you see in Bug Soup. The first one of the soups is actually that soup, I think. Yeah, that's it, with a few different colour alterations, but the exact same creatures in it.
Yeah. Exact same creatures, yeah.
So that's the first bowl.
That's even like, even just the understanding that, just from a picture in the book, becoming a book.
And me just calling it Bug Soup for some reason, underneath it on that one picture.
Interesting.
It started interest.
That's good. So someone else who mentioned that to you, put the idea into your head.
Where can I buy that book, Bug Soup? I thought, best to write one.
Yeah, but you were on the ball though, and you did it.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
Definitely.
I wanted to mention something about when we talked about copywriting before.
Yeah.
There was the old way where you post it to yourself. Now, what do most people do now, sorry?
You know, with picture books, I see lots of people on the websites saying they've got millions of websites for picture books now. Everyone's an expert. Like that. They say, how many have you done? How haven't I been written one? And they'll all say about loads of people, oh, how do I copyright on that? You don't. You're going to send it off to loads and loads of companies. Just send it off in a clever way. Just make sure that you've emailed it to yourself if you have to. But these companies aren't looking to steal your book. There's 1 billion of them out there that they can choose between. You know, you'd have to be really non-professional, weird little company to actually steal your book. And when you write a book, make sure it's so unique that if someone did steal it, everyone would know it's being stolen.
Right,
Everyone would go, yeah, that is his book. And then they're out of it. Because there's so many millions of websites to do with picture books. All of them would help them.
Because some people might look at how
You'd
much...
have to go out of business.
Yeah, some people like, look, well, how much do these charge? It's like there's some company called Protect My Work. £40 a year, I use them myself. But all I'd use them for is... Certain things. Me pictures, because I wouldn't want me pictures getting stolen.
100%. I was talking to a photographer the other day, and they were saying about copyright on the pictures.
Yeah. I mean, someone put me onto that idea a long time ago, and I've done it. But every year, you just pay £40. He said well, that's it. And some people said, well, what you've just said before, well, what if they take your work? But it doesn't, not necessarily someone needs to take your work.
Yeah.
You got proof as well.
Well, if it's an established company and they take your work, the risk in everything.
There's risk in everything,
all they built up on your work. You can do it by accident if someone else presents them with the stuff and they don't know that it's by you, and then the person digs off and they put it out there, and then you're going to slam them. Like with musicians, a lot of that happens. They find out, oh, that tune came from here. Oops. So, it was copyrighted. What do I do?
So if you write a poem now and you copyright your poem,
yeah,
then anybody who tries to use your poem, they'll know, or you'll know. You'll get an. Or
I did one which is as long as the Grinch, called Frankenstyle. It's
Frankenstein.
about a self-made, man-made monster who just wants to make fashion. Really weird the way the name came up in that, but that's fully rhymed. It's perfect rhymed. It's 12 syllables each line. Everything's the same meter. Everything's the same. Everything, and there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. Most people will pad out a rhyme to try and get back to the story, sacrifice the story for the rhyme. But lots of the books are rhymed.
Rhymed, yeah.
Actually, none of these are.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
That one's got rhyme and prose in it.
Right,
when it comes to the crazy pictures, they all rhyme.
Right.
But the part about the moose and the kid, they're not rhyming. But lots of the books I do are rhyme.
So you're versatile then, aren't you?
I learnt about rhyme. I remember sitting there trying to find one word, staring at the screen of the computer for 8 hours, just to find that word that would make everything else flow.
Wow, yeah.
It was a killer. And then I went to the Inklings, and the heads of the Inklings, this writers group, all top authors and stuff, were crying and everything, and just go at the end of it, clapping, just because they loved it that much.
Excellent.
And then the head guy came over and went, "You don't know what you've got. That's so important to literature. You just don't know what you have there, do you? All intense and all, no."
So back to what we was also saying before earlier about, some people write a bit too serious or angry, and the positivity. I can see a lot of, you can see how someone writes sometimes, you can kind of grasp that's a positive person.
Yeah. It should be as for kids.
Yeah. So that's interesting in itself, where some people just want to write about negative experiences and.
Well, you've got the ones which help kids, and they are. Yeah. They've got some beautiful books called "I'm Fine" and different ones like that. And they do really help kids, but they're by people who know what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
As I say, doctors or people who have been through it themselves and stuff like that. People with special needs children or things like that. But then all the others jump on it, and the others, this wave. When it was rhyme, and they all thought, well, it's dead easy to just. When you were sending off a letter by post, most of these people didn't exist because it meant having to get an envelope and type stuff out and fold it and get a stamp.
Yeah.
But now you can go hit a button, it gets straight to the agent or to the publisher. So there's tons of this basic garbage is there blocking the way of everyone else who put the time in to get their book to a literary agent. But the literary agent can't look at it for 8 months because you've got all these people who just go, "Oh, I can write about that." And they can't. And they don't care.
Yeah.
You haven't edited it. It's all spelt wrong. Everything's all over the place. But they can still hit the button that sends it to the same place where your stuff's going. And theirs is blocking yours.
Okay.
They have to go through all that chaff to get to yours.
Oh, okay. Because it's got to be checked out, everyone's.
Because it's easy to send. And you've got them all. When it came to rhyme, they go, there's a rabbit who has a habit. So suddenly the rabbit's dressed in a nun's habit. It's that kind of craziness. But they can press a button and send it.
Yeah.
It just goes crazy.
I find a lot of things when even just music writers, script writers, book writers, in the day and age we're in now, I see a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
People like I said, it's just about business. It's just about sell this book. It's not even about the enjoyment someone or what they're gonna get from the book.
Yeah.
That's why even just something simple as a cartoon. The best cartoons were years ago. all the best movies were years ago. There's best
a point to that.
Musicians were years ago.
Yeah.
And there's only a few people who are they're like throwbacks like yourself, where you come from the old school of thought of we have to be creative to make it.
Yeah, and you have to be.
That's
detailed.
the attitude.
You've
The attitude.
Put the detail and
if you
the
think
time.
Even just thinking back into the 90s, you don't even have to go to the 80s, the early 90s. Say, if someone was going to be, if you knew a musician in where you're from, usually that person would be recognized as, a true artist.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody's an artist.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. People want to do music, people enjoy it, but there's only really so many true artists.
Yeah, it's like celebrities. I'm a celeb.
There's only so many true ones, though.
Yeah.
But we are just fed now where everybody can make it.
Yeah.
Now, good to give people the chance to make it, but give the right people the chance, because if you're just going to be taking on people who making this terrible commercial music, nothing wrong with commercials. Some commercials are good, but just real terrible music.
Yeah.
Then there's people there with raw talent,
Yeah.
natural talent, and they don't have a chance because of the business has excluded most of these people.
I know, and the way I see it is, I truly do believe that everyone's born with the same amount of talent.
Okay.
But your talent may be for walking people through the woods and shooting clay pigeons in Scotland.
Yeah,
but you've never picked up a gun to see how good you were.
That's right.
At shooting clay pigeons.
Yeah.
Or you may be a great violinist, you've never picked up a violin. The only reason Mozart was where he was with his success, he had all the talent in the world. His dad was a music teacher, perfectly timed.
Perfectly.
But if Mozart had been born to a woodcutter, would we even know his name?
That's right.
And that's the point. You don't know what your talent is. So when people are just allowed to be, oh, I'm this as well, you're that, so I'm the same, they're not exploring what they might be amazing at.
Yeah.
There could be anything. It could be the simplest thing in the world, but they're the world's best at it. They're not finding out. They're not trying enough things. They're stuck with, oh, I'm going to be a singer, all out of tune, and you think, whoa.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be X Factor or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
And yet they may be a genius.
That's something
that they just haven't had a go at. They may have a go on a piano and just go, and 6 months later, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Or writing music, or,
tapping into your
felling trees, I don't know, anything.
It's about tapping into your potential.
Yeah.
That was
so
the old way
got the
usually.
Same talent, what's your talent?
Well, hopefully, maybe in the future we might get back to that old way, because people will get bored of the uncreative style.
What I always say with picture books, a lot of the agents, they've actually got a kind of stereotypical thing about the agents, what they look like, what age they are, what background they're from, and stuff like that. And that's an actual truth. It's same with script readers. When companies hand them to a certain demographic, certain person, they're nearly all female, they're of a certain age, a certain background and stuff like that. So you've got all these people, and they're basically passing books around each other, these literary agents, doing favours for all their agents. The books aren't great, but they'll bring in an amazing illustrator, so the book looks great. And the book's passable, it's a good book. But how often do you get a hungry caterpillar, or the tiger that came to tea, or the Grinch, or the Gruffalo? Once every 20 to 30 years, yet millions and millions of picture books are produced in that time. And only one at a time becomes memorable within 20 years. And that's because they're taking on friends stuff. I don't mean friends as in who they hang around with, but other companies who pour to them and they go, yeah, we'll pass that. So they're all doing little, it's hard to, this one's really good, but I don't know if they'll sell it a bit new. Let's stick with what we've got.
Yeah.
And then every now and again, like with J.K. Rowling, the little company, the Chicken House, out of all the ones she sent it to, which weren't that many. People always think she sent out to hundreds of thousands. She sent out to a small group. But this one company took it on, whereas everyone else has said no. And it was only taken on because it was in the out tray, and the guy's daughter was sitting, the manager's daughter was sitting in the waiting room, and she picked it up and read it, and then wouldn't put it down. So he thought, okay, I'll phone the author and say we'll have some of them done.
Yeah. Well,
and that's it. So it's chance. But it's a lot of these companies, the way they do the business, the publishers and the agents, they don't take chances. So they go with the one which is, well, we know that'll sell some. And that's, you go online, look at the expectations. They say, you're lucky if you sell 10,000, even through a big publisher.
Wow.
They say, you'll probably sell 3,000 books of one, and then they'll just get they'll stop printing it. Now, the Gruffalo wouldn't go like that. So they're already dipping the expectations of whatever they put out there.
Yeah.
You know.
So being
every 20 years, you get a great book.
So, you know, have you got any of your books independent, is it? You know, like the way there's different ways you can do it. You can go the independent route, or you can be a big publisher. Do you use both, or do you just stick with how do you do?
The certain ones which they didn't want. And then there's other ones which I didn't want to put through them. I've got one called Big Kid. I've got another one called The Weekend Nanny, which is the first black nanny in a kind of, it says the third greatest nanny book ever written after, you know, what's it called, Mary Poppins and Nanny McPhee. So I put that as a kind of little comedy thing on the line of the, but she's great. She turns up on a big rusty motorbike, all smoking, all the leathers on, and she got like whips off the hat and the goggles, and she got this big bluish rinse afro, and she's just like crazy fun. And that's never been done. So that's one of the ones which I'm going to be pushing through this thing that I'm setting up called Billiard Publishing with another 2 partners, and we're going to start producing books and pulling them out there, whether it be through Kickstarter to kick it off, or just publishing them and putting them out there.
Yeah, interesting though.
But I'll still keep the American publisher because they like a certain type of book, so I've got loads of them written. So, and I have a good relationship. It's always with the CEO of the company.
Oh, that helps. That helps.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. So it's anytime I want to Zoom him, or he'll Zoom me, and we'll just chat for hours laughing and skitting all kinds and stuff like that. So they're all young in this company, and they've done it really well. Yeah. I always call them the Netflix of publishing, because they've come up with a new way of doing it.
Yeah.
And it suits me.
Interesting anyway. Well, I've learned a lot from you today, you know, and also there's one question, the last question, it's coming very near to the end. I always ask every guest this anyway, the importance of African history. Yeah. For example, how important do you think it is for people to know our roots? Whereas we might get the narrative of you were only slaves, negative, just all the stereotypes. I mean, can you see the importance of African history from a positive perspective?
Oh, 100%. I mean, like Hollywood's a bruiser for that one. I mean, it just puts it all down to no one who achieved anything in a Hollywood film, you know, about Egypt. Yeah. If they achieved anything, suddenly the blonde haired or something like that. Yeah, changing the faces. So they're always hiding that kind of thing. And anyone who just wants to, I mean, you can put it into Google, a million things will come up now.
All sorts.
Which all the proof and the evidence is there. These aren't wild people coming up with wild suggestions and that. These are professors and experts.
Definitely.
And white experts as well. Yeah, well-known ones. They're not denying it anymore. They're saying this is the way it was. So if you need, you know, you do. Everyone needs to look. I don't care what race you are. Everyone needs to know, because it's so important in history. You can't have history without it.
That's it.
History doesn't add up. If you take away this big block of history, the rest doesn't make sense.
It won't make sense,
you know. And that's what it is. And it's a weird one, because we're going through a time where we have got an image now, and we've got more of a voice. And if you look at TV, the adverts are like, I always say to people that the only advert that had a black guy in the 80s was a guy who went fried onion rings in a McCain oven chips ad. He was sitting in the back of the van. That was his part. Now, it's everywhere, and people are right and go, why are they all black in the Christmas adverts? Oh, sure. Yeah. You know, that's just madness. You weren't complaining when they were all white in the Christmas adverts, so don't complain now.
That's it.
But a lot of the writers, the picture book writers now, are doing, now there used to be companies which would do black images and picture books and stuff like that, specialised in America, quite big ones as well. Now a lot of the white writers are writing books based on black kids and their hair and stuff like that. Yeah. Which, that's the way it should be with everything, but you've got to do it right. Yeah. And you've got to experience it or know it. Like with the doctors writing the books about kids with problems.
Yeah.
Or their parents who went through
it. Do it for the right reasons.
Do it for the right reasons, and make sure that what you're telling people, you've lived it, or you know it 100%.
Because at the end of the day, you know, it's about being a book writer. Like you said before, you could be writing about China, you could be writing about anywhere.
You're
putting your own imagination to and to go out and do research also to make sure that I want this book as close to factual as possible or something.
Exactly. A lot of the books that I write, you could set anywhere in the world. You could put them anywhere in the world. So, in other words, when it comes to the finer points, like maybe a Chinese or a white person or an Indian person writing about a black person, those little details, sometimes you can't write that. Same with me, I can't write what a Chinese person feels in China when something's going on.
Of course.
I can only write it in a place where you can set it anywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting you said that just before we go. The black experience, only we can actually speak on that. The Chinese experience, only they can speak 100%. On that.
100%. You can write something commercial.
But as far as research,
and have a good story.
As far as research, you can delve into other cultures to see, well, because everybody learns off everybody in some sort of way.
Yeah.
It's like trading.
100%.
Oh, you've got that, I've got this, let's trade.
Yeah, it's like Spielberg as a director, you can do a film about an alien or Amistad. Slaves, or the colour purple, or a dinosaur. We should have that kind of thing where we can write about anything that we want.
Not what we're expected to.
Certain details, sometimes you've got to leave it to the Chinese person or the
certain
Indian
things.
person,
I totally agree with that.
Or the black person or the white person or whatever.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much today, Vincent Cleghorne. Anyway, you know, maybe we can do this again another time. But this, I can't wait to watch this back. And you know, I've learned so much, much today.
I tend to waffle on.
No, we're very interesting. I've learned a lot myself, you know. So I want to thank you again, Vincent Cleghorne, for appearing on Discovering with James Diboe, dedicated to Original People Season 4. And once again, can't wait to watch this back. Thanks very much, Vincent.
Thank you.